Christoph Dahlin began to read. Notebooks, journals, logs, each one kept in secret by those who had vanished from public life after 1939. At first, the entries were mundane. Notes on glacial movements, on ocean currents, on the promise of scientific discovery. But then, page by page, the tone shifted. Halfway into the voyage south, compasses began to fail. Their needles spun without direction, as if the Earth's pole itself had ceased to exist. Then came the storm, but no storm of cloud or rain. The sea itself began to pull. The vessel, under full steam toward Antarctica, was dragged northward instead. The crew swore the ship was being towed by something beneath the waves. And then, the grip loosened. The sea grew still. The vessel drifted. And out of the depths, before their very eyes, something emerged. A ship. It was a preserved 19th century vessel, its hull torn by claw marks of impossible size. Salt-eaten timbers, shattered masts. The ocean presented it to them, rising from the abyss like an offering. Olav Haugen, Captain Olsen, and Borge Andersen were the first to cross onto its deck. They moved through rotting planks and blackened cabins until they reached the captain's chamber. There, in a locked chest, they found it, a silver box, seamless, gleaming, unlike anything their century could explain. Around it were artifacts, a scattering of relics from civilizations scattered across the globe. Coins, tools, carvings, scrolls, objects with no connection, no chronology, gathered together like a museum built by the sea itself. The moment the box was carried back onto Olsen's vessel, the wreck collapsed. With a roar, it shattered into splinters, dragged back into the blackness. That night, on the deck, the argument began. The sailors muttered of curses, of omens. The scholars spoke of opportunity, of history remade. Olav Haugen chose the path of secrecy. The ship would return to Norway. The relics would be studied quietly. The crew would be brought into silence. And so it was. January 1940. In Oslo, in hidden rooms far from the eyes of the press, the box was studied. No key, no latch, no mechanism could be found. Until one day, by accident, a hand pressed flat upon its surface. 5 seconds passed, and then, with a hiss of escaping air, it opened. Inside lay a daguerreotype. 3 men, one in Arabian garb, another in the formal attire of 19th century Europe, and between them, an older figure in Middle Eastern robes, his gaze solemn, unyielding. Beneath it, a codex bound in dark leather, its pages filled with diagrams of unknown devices, sigils that resembled no faith of man, and illustrations of beings, half known, half nightmare. Much of the text was in classical Arabic. Engberg could read half of it. The fragments spoke of a warning, though never of what. Other scripts were stranger still, requiring entire teams of linguists. But before such a company could be assembled, the occupation came. The box was closed, its contents hidden. The team scattered to silence, but one man kept records. In a notebook, precise, detailed, almost clinical, Borge Andersen compiled a ledger, a list of names, the names of all who had touched the voyage. Beside each name he wrote a fate, captured by the SS, executed with the resistance, and most often, heart failure. When the list reached his own name, the hand that wrote changed. It was Helga Engberg who continued the record. Beside Andersen's name, she wrote, heart failure. Beside Haugen's, heart failure. And then, her own name. On the blank space beside it, Christoph Dahlin took his pen and wrote, heart failure. With her death, every name on the ledger crossed out. Every voice of the 1939 expedition silenced. The notebooks, the silver box and its contents, all had passed at last into the hands of Christoph Dahlin. But the circle was not closed. With a steady hand beneath the name of his former lecturer, Dahlin wrote his own name.